Welcome to another episode of Deal Me In. I'm the gentleman Wake, joining you again for another episode. Today we're going to be talking to Kevin Cantrell. He's just waiting here off stage. He'll be here in a second. But Chris Chaberton Cards, Chris Moyer could not join us today, unfortunately, so he won't be with us. But we have plenty to talk about because we're going to be talking a lot about the Goldsmith campaign, rather the Goldsmith deck. The pre-order is finally shipping, so we're really excited about that. And without further ado, I'm going to bring Kevin on here. Kevin, how are you?
Good. It's a long time coming. It's good to be here. Excited to launch it.
Awesome. So say hello to a few people here. Hey Matt, what's up? What's up, Matthew? So like I mentioned, and Kevin, I know you just received your copy in the mail, but we're happy to announce that the Goldsmith deck project is finally after a super long and arduous process going to be in the hands of customers. We're really excited because the decks are being packaged, being boxed up as we speak by Gambler's Warehouse. I know a bunch of people have already gotten their tracking information and whatnot, and the decks and the sets are going to be going out soon. So we're very, very excited and very, very relieved, I think is the word, because this project was a little bit of a nightmare. We'll talk a little bit about how this came to fruition and why it was so challenging. But the ultimate result, the end product, I think is well worth all of that. I mean, it's a beautiful deck set that we'll talk about here in a little bit, and we're really excited to finally have it be in the hands of fans and customers who pre-ordered it so long ago and have been so patient and so supporting of our endeavor here. So real quick before we get into the meat of the episode, I am giving away a prototype Goldsmith deck. You're gonna have to stick through to the end for the passcode. And then we will figure out who's going to be the winner of that. The next live stream that we have, we'll pull the winning entry. All right. So Kevin, you finally got your set. What did you think?
Oh, it's awesome. It's better than I hoped it could have been. It's better than the prototype, which I was very concerned about because again, with our production challenges and complications, it really, I think, created a lot of warranted concern, but I think everybody should feel very at ease. It turned out amazing. The printing's impeccable. The cards handle beautifully. Everything looks fantastic. And so really it's exciting. Now we finally have it. So thank you for everybody's patience.
Yeah.
And I think you'll be very happy with the product you get in the next few days. I mean, I'm actually surprised I got mine today. I didn't think I'd get it for a few more days.
I mean, honestly, I had them ship it out on Friday. I had no idea you would get it this soon. I figured you probably wouldn't get it in time. But
yeah, me too.
But glad to see you did get it. So before we get into that, for anybody who's watched, I doubt anybody's watching this who doesn't know who you are. But for anybody who might not know who you are, why don't you give us a little bit of a background as to how you got into this world, the world of playing cards.
Just give me a sec. I got some kids in the background. Give me 1 sec.
Okay, no worries. So gonna keep saying hi to some people. What's up, Kenny? How are you? Welcome to the live stream. Matt, Cardamundi definitely did produce some issues for us with the release of this campaign. We had to postpone the printing of these cards for a while we figured out the whole situation with Cardamundi. I can't wait for you to receive it too. I mean, if you receive it, if you get your Goldsmith deck, please, take pictures, post about it, do all that stuff, let people know, because we'll get into it a little bit later. But this campaign really barely exists. It was a rough process. It was an experiment on very many levels for us to pull this off, and really it's only because of the awesome support that we've gotten from about 300 people that really made this thing a reality. But now we would love to sell the rest of those decks. So so we'll see. How are you, Easton? So you good now?
I mean, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Sorry, it's just.
So, as I was asking, so why don't you give us a little bit of background as to how you got into this, the crazy world of playing cards production and design?
So that's how did I get into it? Probably, I think the first time I got approached to do a card deck was by Theory 11, probably about 11 years ago, which was the Citizens deck. And at that time, I think Theory 11 was kind of just up and coming. They only had a few decks out. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. At that point, I was just about to go solo. I was just getting into doing my own custom lettering and really ornate style. And so I'm like, okay, that could be a cool project. Also, it was a real challenge because I've done really big posters. I've done branding applications, but I've never really translated my style small.
Right.
And that's a bit of a learning curve. And so that was a really good test to kind of see how I could translate and reduce the information, but maintain for the production all of the ornamental details that could still foil, that could still produce. And once I did that, I guess you could say the subsequent decks became a little bit easier, but each deck is its own challenge. Each deck, I'm always trying to do something crazy. And so it's always difficult. That's part of what's really, I think, thrilling about it. Although the margins of, actually making money on them is really, really razor thin.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly gotten more thin over the years. I think
Yeah,
there was a little bit of like the post-pandemic kind of boon where everybody was home and they had the stimulus checks to spend on hobbies that didn't require them going out, and all of a sudden it was like booming. It was like a big explosion of campaigns and funding goals and whatnot. And then now it's it's kind of changed a little bit. But yeah, certainly.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard to say exactly where the economy is if we're on the cusp of a recession, or not. But I mean, we're certainly, from an economic standpoint, in a very different situation now than we were 3-4 years ago.
Yeah,
and that has its own challenges, right? Because
I was just going to ask you, how many decks have you worked on to date?
9, I believe, not including my Sanctuary deck, which is about, I'd say, 60-70% done. I just don't know when I'm going to get around to finishing it. That would be my 10th. And then the 11th, which I will do, will be for my graphic novel in a couple of years when I release that. And so and then after that, will I do more decks? I don't know. Like maybe not. Like I always say I'm going to retire after I do a card deck, but then I get roped into another one.
Yeah.
It's possible I might do another deck for Theory 11. They've asked me to do 1 or 2. We'll see. But I don't know. I really don't like.
You and I, we had our idea, our plan for what we wanted to do. So why don't we talk a little bit about that? Because I think obviously folks are tuning into this episode. They want to know a little bit about what we're doing here with this particular deck, what the Goldsmith is. So for those who might not know, I think at this point, probably most of the people watching this are going to know, but you might not. Kevin and I worked together collaboratively on a Gentleman Wake deck release called The Successor that experienced a very, very positive campaign and reception. We had a pretty high grossing campaign total for that campaign, and we worked really, really hard. It was a very ambitious thing. I think that's going to be the theme of the day, is we work on ambitious projects that require a lot of steps and can be challenging to fund. So the campaign that we worked on, that particular campaign, we did the beautiful box set that I'm sure most folks might know about. If you don't know about it, just visit thegentlemanwake.com. You can see images there on thegentlemanwake.com of the Successor project. And it was really fun, and we had a good time, and we both made a little bit of money, and at the end of the day, it was like, okay, like we kind of want to work together on something new. However, Kevin, you were already working on the Goldsmith, right? This is something that you were working on your own, and you wanted to, you were looking for somebody to partner with on the project. Is that right? Is that how it goes?
Yeah. It's funny. Like sometimes I just feel like I'm just like always timing things poorly, because I think if I would have, because I was thinking, it'd be cool to launch. Well, let's back up. There's a few reasons why. There's a few things I've been trying to do to facilitate a bigger project, which is my graphic novel series, which is,
right.
I mean, it's massive. Like, it dwarfs everything I've ever worked on. When you see it, you'll understand. It's really big, and it's very, very time consuming. So my idea was, okay, what can I do to potentially create some kind of a passive income stream that could facilitate that project? So like, well, I already designed card decks, so maybe I could launch my own brand. Did that to mixed results or success, you could say, in terms of that goal. But again, it's more of a, the more product you have, the more quantity, obviously that facilitates that path. But every deck is just so time consuming that I don't know if that's really a realistic goal right now in this market, but we'll see. The other thing was launching my own type foundry, which that's still I'm still working on typeface, hoping to release a couple here soon. And then I obviously have my own studio work. And then I was hoping, I think there was one other thing I was trying to do too. But anyway, so that was the big picture. And Goldsmith, I thought, was a great introductory deck for my own studio for a lot of reasons. One is the Goldsmith story, I think, is really fantastic when you really read in it. I thought, especially the story that the Goldsmith tells, and we can get into that.
Yeah.
More of the untold story of Gutenberg, his failures, his successes. And with the exception of potentially the last year or two of his life, he lived mostly impoverished. He didn't really see much success, at least from a financial standpoint. He actually lost a ton of money in an earlier investment, but all of those failures enabled him and taught him how to do all of the intricacies of the press. And so if it weren't for those failures he'd gone through, I don't know if we'd have the press, at least not in the way or at least maybe it would have happened maybe later on. Somebody would have figured it out. I don't know. But it certainly was a journey that facilitated that path for him. And I thought that was a great story to tell. And I think in some ways I saw myself in that. Yeah, I do a lot of gold. I'm obviously not Gutenberg. I've never made an invention that's changed the entire world. Arguably, I think time had it as the most important invention of the last millennia. So, which obviously is warranted because it's completely reshaped the world, which is amazing. And we all benefit from that. But the idea of someone who's failed but keeps getting back up and succeeds, and and again, he was literally a goldsmith, in his metal work. I thought it was really cool and a good way to introduce my own brand line for that. And some other cool stories. All the characters in the court set represent certain. Well, many of them represent real people who influenced and contributed to either his personal journey or facilitating the construction of the press, whether it was a financial backer, someone who helped run components of that, whether it was one of the archbishops who gave him a pension towards the end of his life, or even funny stories like that no one knows if he was married, but there's a document that he settled in court with someone who tried to sue him, saying that he kind of went back on his marriage proposal to her, which I can't remember who it is, but I think it's the Hart character. Anyway, one of the characters in there is that woman, which is pretty funny. So that's a funny story. Also, there's a man and a woman in the deck too who represent a couple he lived with when he was attending university in Strasbourg. So that's another component of it. Obviously, there's the two people who were his partners. One of them ended up basically suing him because he couldn't pay back his investment in it, and he ended up taking the press from him. So that's a sad, unfortunate story. And from a business standpoint, you can understand if you invest in something and you don't get a profit off of it, or they don't pay you back.
Yeah.
What you do, right? You're in a hard spot, but it still is pretty tough for Gutenberg. But anyway, so that was kind of the first deck that I wanted to do. I thought it really was the culmination of all of the abilities I've learned designing decks, and it was a very time-consuming deck. But also because of some of the efficiencies I've learned, in some ways it went faster than some of my, like, I would say my most time-consuming decks were probably my Lord of the Rings and probably Successor. Those are the most time-intensive decks I've ever worked on. The Lord of the Rings, now part of the reason Lord of the Rings took so long is obviously there were so many man hours in it, but also because most of those decks don't pay enough, I have to work them in my workflow so I can have other work that supplements and pays my bills while I'm working on it. So,
right.
Theory level would be like, oh, this took 2 years in the making. It's like, well, technically, it was probably like 5 months full time of my workflow, but I had to stretch it over a year and a half so I could work on other things to pay my bills in the process. And so that's why. Anyway, and again, it's some people work faster, some people work slower. I don't know too many people who can do super intricate, ornate Victorian decks who can do them faster than I can, because I'm very efficient in that style. I know Jackson Robinson is pretty quick, but
yeah,
and he does a pretty wide range of decks, but even his super ornate decks don't quite have some of the intricacy of what I do. It's very time consuming. But anyway,
So
and that's all he does. I don't just do card decks. That I design typefaces. I do branding is actually my bread and butter. Mostly I do branding, but I do a lot of editorial. I do a lot of lettering. I do a lot of things. So anyway.
well, yeah, you can definitely see the influence, the typography influence in all of your decks. I think it's a very strong component, something that you do very, very well. So talk a little bit about this particular deck and like how you arrived at it. You know, obviously the color palette is really unique. You know, the style of the deck is really unique.
I'll tell you exactly where the color palette came from. So just like other people, other artists, I look at other art, I look at other decks for inspiration. The color palette is very much taken from the Hudson deck, which is one of my favorite decks, at least tuck cases. Arguably my favorite tuck case is the Hudson by Dan Greta, who's a phenomenal designer. Also did your Groundkeeper deck, which one of these days I will get my hand on.
I will say I should have sent you one with Goldsmith. Slipped my mind, but I will definitely have some sent to you.
Yeah, great deck. But Dan Greta is a phenomenal designer. It's funny because he's also kind of relatively unknown. Yeah. And part of that's because he keeps a very low profile. He doesn't post a lot. And I identify with that.
I'm on the show actually to talk about Groundskeeper when that was finally out, and he declined politely, you know. So
and I get that, and I respect that. I like you know, that some artists are very good at, like for example, Jessica Hische is extremely good at her personal persona, at giving talks and being very public. She's very good at that. She's very good personality for that. You know, like Alan Peters is very good, and I'm not. I really don't like being in the spotlight, like at all. I'm very introverted. I don't mind going on shows. I mean, I obviously have given many presentations. I'll be giving a presentation at the brand new conference in Salt Lake, and that's like I do that. I'm like, okay, I need like a month off. Like that's taxing.
Right.
It's very, so I don't mind doing it in small measures, but also like I have a lot of things I do. I honestly don't know sometimes how all of these artists have time to post as often as they do. I'm like, well, what do you do? How are you paying your bills? Like how are you working if you're posting every day, you know, all the time?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like at least in the playing cards world, it's like, you know, obviously Jackson has like a team of folks that kind of help him.
He does, yeah, he does. And I think, and again, if you have that kind of a setup, and again, his entire business is card decks. It's all he does.
Right.
And he has an infrastructure. And again, and a very successful infrastructure he's built for that, which is awesome. And it's great for him, you know. So he's able to have a team that facilitates that helps him with that. Although for the most part, I'm pretty sure he does pretty much all of the design, with some exceptions for his card decks, which is awesome. Like he's obviously very proficient and has a pretty vast portfolio now of card decks, which is very impressive. And so anyway, for him, that's great. I don't have a team. I can't afford a team to people. And also, I'm very particular on how I post stuff. I don't like people just posting stuff online. Anyway, I like being able. I like control too much, Omar, to be honest. And so I don't like giving people, like, it's like, oh, I don't like how you crop that image. Can you take it down? Or, you know, or I don't like the lighting on that. I don't like the composition of that. Like, I'm very specific in that. I
wish Chris were here, because I feel like he did a tremendous job with the photos.
He did an excellent job with the photos.
Yeah.
They look amazing.
So shout out to Chris, who may or may not be watching at home, but thanks, man, for the amazing photographs that you took of the Goldsmith. So for those who don't know, the Goldsmith is based on the story of Johann Gutenberg, who is the individual accredited with the creation of the printing press. And that's why there are a lot of elements in this deck that are reminiscent of books and binding and book binding, and you know, some of the details in the cards you'll see are based on pages and books and tomes and volumes.
And in addition to that, and this is because me being a typographer, this is like a playground for me, because you have the punch cut system, which is his type system where he created the individual letters. And this is where his genius comes in. Right. Because he's a goldsmith, he was able to create the perfect alloy combination to create the metal letter forms that could be cut in his punch cut system and be very malleable, but also hard for the press. And so you'll see, for example, on the flap, you have two, right here, for example, you have two punch cut letters, which is, and again, and I actually cheat a little bit, because most punch cut letters are going to be inverted, because when you print it, then it prints the right way. But for this deck, most of it's shown. I cheated and I inverted it, because I want it to be legible and accessible. And so, of course, and most people won't really get that. And so I thought I'll cheat on that and make it more accessible. But yeah, you have the punch cut, which is in one of them, and then you obviously have the printing press and the spades. You have, let's see which one. You have the inkers, which is the hearts. And so what those are actually, so you would hold them, and after you would get your, in your tray, in your letter tray, you put all the punch cut letters and you arrange them. You put in your leading and you set the tray, you put it in the press, you lock it in, and then you would have your inkers, and you would pretty much, you stomp them in ink, and you put it over the type. And then once that is ready, then you have the paper put in, and then you press it. And then you have to re-ink it, and then you press it. And so that's what that is on the hearts. And let's see, what else do we have?
Yeah, I have images of the cards itself. I love it.
Yeah, and then also his family owned the mint, which is, again, part of how he learned and was an apprentice at Goldsmith for metallurgy, is because of his family owning the mint. And so on the spades, we have components of the mints from that era. And again, I don't know if it's exact. I try to pull from that era. It's very hard to find the exact mints from that period, but it's basically circa around his life. And so it's pretty close to whatever the coin in the mint would have been.
Right.
But again, I mean, I interpret it. It's not a literal interpretation. I obviously interpret it so it fits the best in the compositions I compose, but it's inspired loosely by that. And so that's where that comes from. The spades is the mints from the family coin. If you look at the jokers, I love the jokers. This tells the interesting story about when he made what's called these pilgrim mirrors. And this was kind of his first business endeavor where he's like, oh, wait a second. So every couple of years there was this pilgrimage, and they would go to wherever the head bishop or archbishop was, and he would have this thing called a pilgrim mirror, and he would hold it up to the light, and the light would pass through it onto what were theoretically the vestments of Christ, which obviously they weren't really the vestments of Christ, but people believed it was. And so the light would transfer onto it, and whatever that touched, it would give and then other people would have these pilgrim mirrors, and they would hold it up, and the light that would reflect off of the vestments, it would catch it, and they would say it would cure any ailments or sicknesses or diseases, and that's why they made that. And so that was and so he made like 8,000 mirrors in preparation for the following pilgrimage that was about to come. But unfortunately, and the plague came, and so it canceled it. And so he invested, again, in our day and age, hundreds of thousands of dollars to make these pilgrim mirrors, and there was no market for it because they didn't happen because of the plague. Kind of like COVID stepped in and knocked everything out.
Yeah. So there's a lot of parallels.
a lot of parallels. Which is
parallels.
Very, very kind of really ironic that similar things happen to us. Anyway, and so that's where the other joker, the plague, comes in. And a lot of these quotes are taken from actual Johann Gutenberg himself, and just to say, like, the type on this card is like 2-point, and it's cold foil, and it's super, super crisp. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I want to mention the pictures that you're seeing on screen are the Carta Mundi prototype. This deck is the WJPC version, which is the version that everyone will get, the final version, and the way they handle the cold foil, because of the debossing that they do, is different than the linen kind of debossing or embossing that Carta Mundi does. It's easier to see.
Yeah, it's better. It's better.
It looks better. So I'm really happy about that. And I think people at home are going to be super pleased. And the deck handles. I mean, the deck handles just beautifully. I mean, it is just easy to spring and fan. The gilding is beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's really, really amazing. I'm really excited for people to get their hands on it. So, obviously these particular quartz, I got to say, man, these are my favorite quartz that you've ever made so far, because I really like the Sanctuary quartz, and that hasn't, as far as decks that have been produced, I think these are your best quartz that you've ever worked on. What was your thought process going into, like, how did you decide that you were going to tackle these?
It was actually inspired by a painting. I think it's I can't remember the name of the painting. I think it's the painting from like what's the Ryan Reynolds movie with the gold painting in it, where it has this woman in gold that she's silhouetted by this illumination. That was the inspiration for it.
Girl with the pearl earring, that one?
No, it's not that one. It's not that one. It's this very specific gold painting where it's like gold leaf in that silhouettes her.
Right.
But that was like the inspiration. I'm like, okay, I would love it because I wanted to obviously feature as much gold as possible. And I said, I love the idea.
It makes sense, right?
So I love the idea and also again, I'm a typographer. I love the idea of having dingbats or ornaments that are typographic ornaments that are in punch cuts that could make the ornamentation in the border. And so having this pattern that's gold that frames them, I thought was a really nice typographic homage to what I do, and also relevant to the printing press. A little more of I guess you could say, an anachronism, right, where they wouldn't have necessarily done that in their era, but it would be a modern day interpretation of that, which I think would be very interesting. And so that was kind of the idea behind it, is having that intricate kind of dingbat framework there to house them. And I thought that was really cool. And I'm really proud of the court cards and just the overall composition of them, the little details, the books that are, interlace them. I thought, and most of these books are real books. The Iberius Latinus was produced by Schoeffer, I believe, after Gutenberg's time, but that was a book that he produced. Secrets on Ink is another book that's featured in there. There's a couple other ones, but most of those are real books that they're pressed, either the Gutenberg press or Schoeffer, who had the press after him, would go on to produce, who would be a protege, who would, again, that would be still the influence of Gutenberg. And so I thought that was fair game.
No, definitely. I mean, they're gorgeous. I mean, the whole deck is beautiful. I think, you are known for elaborate, kind of intricate decks. I'll say, I think this one again is probably your most elaborate to date, your most intricate as far as details are concerned. There really is a lot of detail to be discovered in each card. So I think that's really, really cool. And the aces are beautiful as always, as all your aces always are. And the core cards, and the back design is gorgeous too. Obviously, there's the white and the black. You can see the difference here. The two tones that make the set.
And by the way, the back, because we made some adjustments to help the back stand out more, and it looks night and day. Like, it looks so much better. It's much clearer, the silhouette of Gutenberg.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we added. So those who don't know, what we did was we added some extra. I think we added like some extra thickness, right?
I added approximately a half point thickness to that, to the line around him,
to make the line work. So, for instance, the image on your screen, you can't really see Gutenberg as well, unfortunately, but in the final version, it's much clearer and the line work is much more defined, and it's gorgeous. I mean, it's just a beautiful card.
And that's one of the reasons I like doing prototypes, because even with Theory 11, we usually do prototypes because it's very hard to gauge, and I'm operating right on the threshold of what's possible. And I have I've done a lot of things. I have a very long history painting with was Lady with the Red Hat. That could be it. Thank you for that, Matt. And so, but I know the thresholds, but I'm always pushing the limits. And so even with my 15 years of print experience, it's still really hard to produce something this intricate when you're pushing the limits. And again, also, we're using different printers, and different printers have different thresholds. You're in different climates, you're on different papers. Yeah, for sure. Like I did a project 3 months ago where it was actually for a medicinal company, and I was doing a card campaign for them there. I don't know if I'm legally allowed to say who it's for, what it entails, but basically it's a card deck campaign for this very big medicine company, and they wanted cards that would show, and so it was a blend of these different attributes of their medicine that would combat cancer. And so we actually produced cards. I think I'll be able to show it. They're really cool. It's kind of more along the lines of Citizens. I would say that's what they wanted. Mm-hmm. But on some paper, what I produced printed perfectly. But they wanted a paper, and again, we couldn't get the actual official paper that the USPC uses, or any Cartamundi, or this the WJPC. Yeah, WJPC. Yeah, we couldn't use either's paper, so we had it basically by a faux or an imitation that was close to it. And it's much more spongy than we could have predicted. And so we didn't print very well. So we had to adjust our plates, which cost a little bit of money. And I mean, I told them there's probably gonna be some adjustments needed, because it's really, really intricate what we did, even more intricate than these cards here, because of the gouache patterns and line details in it. Anyway, so even then, so it's very hard to predict that. And so we try to do the best we can. Prototypes is a way where we can do that. And then if we have to make changes, we can. I don't think we made any changes to the tuck case.
No, the tuck case was printed by Studio Pression in France.
And that guy knows. We know each other. He knows my work, and so we pretty much know what we can do. And
Yeah, I mean, he did a gorgeous job. These tuck cases look fantastic.
But also the interior pattern is incredible. Like
very crisp.
Yeah, and I'm really proud of that pattern. It's crazy how much gold is on that. Like it's
and it's the thing is, despite that, how much crazy foil there is, it's so legible. Everything is like clear and crisp. It's really, really, really cool.
Yeah, that was probably, and I think part of it is because it has a lot of thick areas.
Right.
And the thin margins are not too thin. Like, for example, the successor deck was pretty thin.
Yeah.
And that one I would have liked to have been a little bit crisper, but this one I think is super crisp, and it looks awesome. I think we could have solved that with success if I just scaled up the pattern more, and I should have thought of that. I think if I would have doubled the size of it, it would have negated that problem. But anyway, it still looks cool.
Oh man, you have to learn your lesson. You learn lessons, right? Like you learn things about how the process works. So we call this entire project was the first Cantrell a priori release, produced by the Gentleman Wake, signature series #1, because we had a plan to continue to make decks in this model. Obviously, there was some difficulty. We encountered some difficulty. For those who don't know the story, we released this pre-order shortly after the successor was in hand. People had finally gotten it in hand. We had fulfilled. Everybody was getting their successor decks in hand, and we ideally wanted to capitalize on the general goodwill and the good feeling of people getting their decks and being happy with the successor decks to launch this new endeavor. And the initial plan was that we were going to do 4 decks in a year. In fact, the Via Balluno deck, which is really interesting because the prototype deck that you'll win as a contest is a half and half. It's half Via Balluno and half Goldsmith. So you'll have an opportunity to own Via Balluno cards before anyone else does if you win that contest today. But we worked on a plan so that we would release 4 decks. The ideally was in 1 calendar year, and that went out the window quick. Why? Why did it go out the window? Well, first things first, Cardamundi suspended all playing card production indefinitely. We didn't know when they were going to come back. At first, they were suspending it for 6 months, and then, we ended up having to go with WJPC because they ended up suspending all production indefinitely. So no idea when if they're even coming back. And part of the reason it delayed things was because, we showed prototypes and collected pre-orders based on how the Cardamundi decks looked. And we felt, that we wouldn't be doing justice to our customers if we change printers, rather, change horses midstream, right? Like we were like all of a sudden selling one thing and delivering another. Obviously, the circumstances were such that we needed to figure something out. I put out an email. Most of you who are backers, who are customers of the campaign, know about the email that was asking folks what they thought about the possible solutions. We could wait it out. We could try and see if Cardamundi was coming back, or we could go with a different producer. So we decided to do that. WJPC had just finished printing the amazing groundskeeper decks for Wormwood, which were printed by the WJPC, and I had a relationship with them. And Lorenzo and Giovanni, other amazing artists and designers, were using them. So we reached out to them, and we, finally got the project going many months after what we thought initially. So this had a knock-on effect, obviously, because any business that requires investment is, the money is tied up in that investment. You don't use it for other things. All of a sudden, a project that you think is going to take 3 months takes a year and 3 months, and it kind of derails plans or derails what you think you might do moving forward. So Kevin and I have talked a little bit about what we're going to do with Via Balluno. The fact of the matter is the pre-order for the Goldsmith did not do as well as we wanted it to do in comparison to Kickstarter campaigns that we have run in the past. Including the successor, which obviously was a big success. Part of the reason I think it did not do as well was because, I think there's and I don't know if the folks watching this necessarily feel this way, but there is a inherent I don't want to say risk, but there's less trust when all of a sudden you don't have the umbrella of Kickstarter kind of protecting the project, right? So people feel confident and they feel like they can bid with confidence, or rather pledge with confidence when they're working through Kickstarter, because they feel like they have a little bit of an umbrella for protection, right? Like the creator's reputation is on the line. If the Kickstarter campaign fails for whatever reason, and they want to run another one, it's going to be a black stain. So at least there's some accountability there. So when we went off Kickstarter and did the pre-order through thegentlemanwake.com, I think we noticed a pretty steep drop off in the number of people who were willing to invest in a project that was a pre-order that didn't necessarily have the confidence that the project was going to come through. Thankfully, this is testament to the fact that we were true to our word. The decks will be in the customer's hands, so we're happy that finally these decks are in their hands. But we think that the pre-order system, we might not be ready for that yet. Obviously creators like Jackson Robinson have been able to go off Kickstarter, but they still use Kickstarter, and there's a reason why Jackson Robinson still uses Kickstarter. So yeah. I think with Via Balloon, I think we've and I'll let you jump in here, Kevin, but I think with Via Balloon, I think that the idea is that we might want to go back to the Kickstarter model, even if it means losing a little bit of money through the percentage that Kickstarter takes, in the hopes that we can once again, entice more people to get involved in the next version of this.
Yeah, I think there's that. I also think, and I think Via Balloon will reflect this, but with the model that we had, we were hoping to release, because I have other versions of Goldsmith I would like to eventually release. I would love to do a blue version, a gold version, which would also be premium tier, have the gilded edges, but they would just have some slight variations on them to complete the set. And I think in launching a campaign where we had such a limited offering, I do think that also possibly isolated some backers who normally could have backed it. Like, for example, there was no lower tier gauge. There wasn't like a $20 deck or a $25 option. And so that immediately probably cut off some people. And so I think with Via Balloon, what we're also going to plan on doing is showing all of the offerings in the Kickstarter, like we did with Successor. Now, it won't be nearly as extravagant as Successor, because number one, I don't know if we ever want to do another campaign like that, because it was just crazy. And a lot of the funding went to the production was because of how elaborate it was. It was very
expensive. It was, if I recall correctly, just the design and the implementation of the lid of the sarcophagus was like $40,000. Like it was expensive, like I'm not even talking about like the box, also like just the lid to have it designed, pressed, and printed was like 40 grand. That's by today's standards, that's a Kickstarter campaign by itself, And that was only a small part. There was 350 of those, right? Like a small part of this massive campaign that we did,
Yeah, and again, like I'll say this, like the sarcophagus is one of my favorite things I've ever done. Like it's if you have one, it's incredible in real life. Like it seriously is. It's really.
We lost you. Are you there? Oh no, we lost him. So yeah, I was actually going to put up some pictures of the sarcophagus right now, because we're both so proud of it. If you guys didn't have any questions while we wait for Kevin, there he is. Is he back?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you were going to say.
I was talking about the sarcophagus being just awesome. It was worth it. It's just, again, we probably won't do that. Although I do want to do something probably not that intricate, but I would love to do some kind of cover with dimension printing for my graphic novel set. We'll see. I'm a year and a half, 2 years out from launching that. But
this is
it won't be as crazy as that. But it's so cool though. Like, I'm glad we did it.
Yeah. So Kevork is saying, I think that the biggest factor pricing was pricing and tier options. Not that it was a pre-order. Kickstarter, for example, has a disclaimer that there's no accountability. Anyone has to. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no, I do think that's I would agree with that. I do think it was not offering all of the tiers up front and just pigeonholing it into one. And again, I think the set, when you see it, it's a really beautiful set.
Yeah, we're talking about
it's a very handsome set. It's just like if we would have launched the successor deck with only the sarcophagus and nothing else as a tier option, it would have excluded a lot of people. And again, that obviously is 4 times the price, and obviously that comes with 6 decks. But anyway, so that anyway, and we learn. We're trying to. There's a couple reasons why we managed it that way, and I think in hindsight, it's always easier to look backwards and say what you would have done differently. But we can only move forward. And I think moving forward, we'll learn from that and continue to produce.
So I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to do some Via Balluno base decks, like some $21 base deck of Via Balluno decks, and then we're going to have like the premium cards, which will be gilded like these, and then we'll have the box set, and we'll basically go for that. We'll limit it, right? We'll limit it to maximum 750. We're not going to sell 750 because I mean we've only sold like 300 of these, right? Like there's still 450 of these left. So if, by the way, guys, if you're watching this now, there's a link in the description below, and you want to get your Goldsmith set that's finally shipping, you'll be able to do that. So make sure to scroll down and click on the link in the description below to get your copy of the Goldsmith deck. So the idea being that we're going to have some base level entry deck, and then we'll do a set of like really premium decks that you'll be able to get without the coin and without the box. Because at the numbers that we were doing Goldsmith, which is probably why Goldsmith was so expensive for us to produce, there wasn't a value in the number that we did, right? There was no difference between 500 and 700. It's still going to cost the same, right? Like the wooden box is going to cost the same whether you make 100 or 1,000. It only gets cheaper if you're making 1,500 or 2,000 or 2,500 or something like that, and then it only becomes marginally cheaper. So we learned a lot of lessons during the process of the Goldsmith, but we want to keep it going, and I think once folks get these cards in hand, they're hopefully going to want to keep going and get the rest of the set as we develop and produce more. And then, of course, there's Sanctuary, which Sanctuary, for those who don't know, Sanctuary is like might be my favorite Kevin Cantrell project I've ever laid eyes on. I mean, it's really, really cool. I'm actually going to look for some of the artwork for that because I'd love to show some of that artwork, but I don't know if I have it readily available. But it's just this gorgeous campaign that this gorgeous deck project that Kevin had an idea to do, and I think it's really, really cool, and I think it's really exciting. And we had some really good ideas, Kevin, for what we were going to do with the tuck boxes and all that stuff.
Yeah, and we will get to that eventually for sure. Like I have every intention of finishing that. It's just right now my graphic novel is taking precedence for.
Right.
Mostly just, well, there's a couple of reasons. One is I'm able to do my graphic novel as part of an MFA program, which is just for some other things I'm doing. Like I like to teach. That's another kind of life fork in the road. Yeah. And so I'm able to kind of hit 2 birds with 1 stone with that. But also just because it just hasn't been financially lucrative enough to warrant.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, one very easy way to guarantee that Sanctuary happens is if Via Balluno funds and we sell the rest of the Goldsmith stock, and Via Balluno does very well, then we can actually start, paying ourselves for the work that we've done. The unfortunate reality is neither Kevin nor I have made any money off of Goldsmith. It's a break-even project right now as of today. We'd love to see some of those extra decks sell. So that's kind of something we're really hoping for.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, there's always, if you've ever read the book Creative Inc. by Ed Catmull of Pixar, there's always kind of 2 things you're fighting as a creative. Is one, you want to make the most beautiful, intricate, amazing product you can. But the other thing that's fighting it is deadlines, and you have to be financially lucrative. You have to actually be able to make enough money to warrant the investment of time. And so far, we just haven't had that. And so it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I got to feed my kids. that's my top.
100%.
And if we can't do that, we can't. And so
yeah, and I would just be ashamed. Like honestly, this back design has got to be one of my favorite things that I've ever seen you do, man. Like this is such a cool back design.
Actually,
like, such a cool
I actually think the quartz are some of my favorite quartz for it too.
Yeah, no, it's really, really great, and just the way all this looks right now is just, I mean, it's going to be a beautiful deck if and when the time comes that we get to release it and put it out into the world. I think people are going to be really happy with it. And I think this one will do really well. And like, again, the you know, I've shown some, and by the way, guys, if you're watching this and you're not a member of the Gentleman Wake Discord, it's called the Playing Cards Parlor. Scroll down in the description below is the link to the Discord. On the Discord, you're going to find a section that's entitled TGW Brand. And in that section is like a thread for every single deck we've produced under the TGW brand, including some of these decks that have yet to see the light, like Via Balluno and Sanctuary. And if you click on those threads, you can go back and see images of progress images and stuff like that to really get a sense for the different kinds of projects that we're working on and stuff that you get a real sneak peek into the production process and the artwork that you're going to see in some of these decks moving forward. So very cool. Kavork says he loves the color palette. Agreed. Beautiful color palette. Really, really cool. He loves Sanctuary, stained glass goodness. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Kenny's saying the Monarch White, which he's talking about successor. Monarch White is an amazing deck. There was a bluish metal card to go with the Goldsmith. Yeah, we could look. One of the things that interestingly enough, now that you mentioned that, one of the things that I haven't talked to you about this, Kevin, we could probably do as a stretch goal during a Via Balluno campaign is a version of the Goldsmith. You know, if we get to a point where we unlock, you know, a Goldsmith version that we can produce a different version of that deck. Maybe a different colorway that features the blue gold, right? The blue metallic color, the teal.
Yeah, that'd be. I mean, that would be a dream because I actually originally designed it for the blue version. That was going to be like the hero. That and probably the gold version. The gold version tended to be the most like limited edition release, right? Bells and whistles. But anyway, thank you, Kenny. Appreciate that.
Yep. Saying, Discord link is expired. Okay, let me get you a new Discord link just in case. I thought I set it up so that it was never. Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna make it so that it never expires. Okay, generate a new link. Copy. Okay, I'm gonna paste it in the comments here, guys. So there's in the comments there is the. I'll go back and I'll edit the description later on so that anybody who's watching this post the actual live will be able to click on a link that works. So thank you for that. Yeah, Kenny's saying a blue or a tuck or a gold tuck of Goldsmith would be amazing colorways as well. I agree. A gold tuck. I mean, it just makes sense to have a gold Goldsmith. I mean,
yeah, of course, obviously. Right? And I can't release a card deck if there's not a gold version. That just wouldn't
right. It just wouldn't. It doesn't make sense. But yeah. So we're it's still in the works. So if you're a fan of this, let us know. If you're a fan, in a comment below. If you're a fan of what we did here with the Goldsmith, with the Cap sub brand, with everything that we have in mind for the Via Balluno deck and the Sanctuary, go on the Discord, take a look at the artwork. If you're a fan of that stuff, let us know because we want to know. We want to know how viable it would be for us to go down this road because it's really a road we'd like to go down, but we want to make sure that it's worth the grind. You know, the effort and the energy that it takes to do these kind of things. All right, so Kevin, I know you talked a little bit about this graphic novel, but for people who don't know, what is this graphic novel? People think of graphic novels, they think of The Dark Knight Rises or Frank Miller's Dark Knight. Like, what is this graphic novel that you're working on?
So when I was 14, I had this idea for a fantasy world, and it's evolved and changed substantially since then. But some of the essence has changed. But originally, one of my dreams when I was 14 was actually to be a writer. I didn't think I loved comics. I loved drawing. That's actually how I learned how to draw, was from comics. But I always wanted to make a fantasy book, a fantasy series. Mm-hmm. And over the last 25, just like, how old am I now? I guess it's been 20. Yeah, it's been about 20, 25 years since I had the initial idea. About 3 years ago, I'm like, well, I'm never going to be a novelist, and also there's some skills I lack. So I recruited my brother, who's a very talented writer. I'm like, okay, I got to get my brother to help me with this. I had a lot of the big ideas for the world, and I even started to art direct to come up with visual look and feels for it. And he came on and he basically wrote it and helped me develop it, helped fill in some holes that I had. He's also very, very good with character arcs and character developments and characters in general. Where I'm very, very good with big ideas and abstract thinking. Not that he isn't either, but our skills complement very well. Where I'm really good at the iconography, the symbolism, the metaphors, the idea behind the world, the magic system, all of that. And he's even better at kind of making it more linear and systemizing it. Anyway, so we came together, and I really feel like it's something really special. Like, if you like my work, this dwarfs anything I've ever done, no question. And it will have a card deck. I will release with it. I'm going to release the first book of this series. So it's called the Kadron Chronicles. Kadron means starlight. And I'll release the whole book is 10 volumes. I'll release the first 3 volumes in about a year and a half to 2 years. And so but I would describe it as Victorian Deco Noir. It's essentially a nocturnal world where the civilization gets their energy and power from the stars. And
cool.
That's a very rough. That's all I'll give for now. But I'll just it's the coolest thing I've ever done. I can't wait to reveal it. It's awesome. I'll just say that.
How far along the process are you now?
I will have the rough draft of volume 1 done by December, and then this is kind of my test case. That will, we have to do some editing. I've never done a graphic novel, so this is going to be a bit of a test. Obviously, I've got to make sure that the sequential art format reads, translates, that people can follow the narrative, and that it works really well. And then I'll start the second and third volumes over the next year and a half. But yeah, it's a beast. It's extremely time consuming, but it's the best thing I've ever done. I'll just say that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. Yeah. And you're planning on doing this as a Kickstarter, correct? Like,
that's the goal. Yeah, I will do Kickstarter.
Right.
And I mean, my goal, my dream would be that it does well enough that it funds, not only back pays, some of the investment I'm making now to produce it,
right?
Some of the debt I'm accruing, but also that it can potentially finance some of the next volumes I'll work on. I would love to finish the whole series about 3 years after I launch, and that's hopefully. But again, it's very time consuming to draw, and when you see it, you'll understand why. It's very graphic, it's very intricate, and it's, if I do say so myself, it's very cool. So I hope you like it. I think it's
to see it and to experience that stuff. That I've seen a little bit. You've showed me like very, very early stuff, and it was really cool. So I'm excited to see where it's gone or where it's evolved, because I know how things evolve when you work on them. Very cool. So we usually like to end the show talking about our guests' favorite decks. So why don't you tell us? I guess we'll do top 3. Your top 3 decks that you've seen or you've been able to collect. Like, what are your favorite examples?
Yeah, it's a funny thing, because I'm not really a collector of anything in life. I'm a sponge in terms of I'm always looking for visual reference and inspiration. I mean, I have like probably 1,000 screenshots on my phone of reference material for my book, and just like, I see something typographic. I got to do something in the branding program with that piece of type. So I'm always collecting. I'm a sponge in that regard. In terms of decks, and I do have quite a few decks, but one of my favorite decks is the Harry Potter deck by which is a phenomenal.
That's an awesome deck. Yeah.
Great deck, beautiful deck. Yeah. I would like to get a Spaceman deck, but I don't have that yet. So
that's fantastic.
That's a cool looking deck, but
it's so beautiful.
That looks really cool. But I mean, I love his Harry Potter. Obviously, I love the world of Harry Potter.
We're talking about Russ Gray. Anybody who doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fantasy fan, so blend fantasy in a cool deck. Love it. It's gorgeous, and also he's so gifted at portraying characters. Like, who the characters are very easily.
Yeah.
Anyway, and his style works so well with that. Love that deck. I mentioned earlier the Hudson deck. I think it's one of my favorite tuck cases by Dan Greta. It's a beautiful, beautiful tuck case. I love the blue version. That's, again, that was one of the main inspirations for Goldsmith, although that's more of a copper finish. Yeah. Mine's more obviously gold and blue. But yeah, it's a gorgeous tuck case, and the ace. It's not a fully custom deck, which I'm just sure he wasn't paid enough to do a fully custom deck. Like, that's the thing,
Yeah.
people don't understand, but like when I did Citizens, I didn't get paid to do a whole custom deck for that.
Right.
They actually asked me to do that for free. I'm like, well, guys, I got to feed my kids. Like, I can't do a fully custom deck for free. Like, and then anyway, and that's a bit of a beast in and of itself. But yeah, beautiful deck. And then I also really love his Groundkeeper's deck. It's like the top. I love the cigar band with the like photorealistic rendering, and then you have the interpretation of it on the inside. Like that's a crazy cool deck, like awesome deck. But I mean, there are many decks I really like. It's hard to.
What about you? What about of your own work? What would you say is your favorite deck that you've worked on?
It's tricky because there are aspects of each deck I've worked on that I'm really proud of. Like I love my Tavern on the Green tuck case, and I like the whole deck in general. And there's going to be a new Tavern deck later this year. If not later this year, early next year, there should be a red edition coming out. That's cool for anybody who's interested. So I'm just coordinating. It's very hard to get hold of Jonathan. We're coordinating that'll come out, but that'll be a very cool deck. So be sure to get your hands on that. It'll be very limited release. It'll probably sell out in, I don't know, 2-3 hours. I wish our deck sold out that fast. Maybe one day we'll get there, but yeah. But I love the tuck case for Tavern. It's one of my favorite tuck cases. I love the tuck case for Lord of the Rings. And as a whole deck, I'm really proud of the Lord of the Rings deck. I love how you have the different suites that correspond to the different houses, elves, halflings with the hobbits, and then obviously Gimli. Yeah, it's very cool. And then you've got Gondor, and you have Rohan, which I really love. And then also I really love in that one the Jokers, because it has the Fellowship, because I couldn't get all the characters in because there's too many characters. Yeah, too many characters. So I loved having like I did the ad cards with like extra characters, and the Jokers being the Fellowship, and then the Armies of Darkness. Anyway, I really like that. And then obviously the Sanctuary has components. Like I love, like the sarcophagus was really what was fully realized. Successor you're talking about. Successor, yeah. I love that. I love that we have the Denacity version and we have the regular version. I love the tuck on that with the coronation ceremony, but the people secretly planning to murder the king. That Monarch White edition is probably one of the favorite things I've ever worked on. And I would agree. I think the Monarch. I love the Monarch. I also really love the Gold edition, the Legacy edition. Like that's really cool. That was kind of along the lines of what I initially planned for. That was an all gold. I mean, I always planned an all gold version. Anyway, I love the tuck case for the Oscars deck. I think of all my deco work, it's my favorite deco piece I've ever done. So what I'm gathering is that basically I'm asking who your favorite child is. Yes, you are. But I will say this: what I'm getting to is there are aspects I love of all my decks, but I believe my best deck in totality is my Goldsmith deck. I think overall, from narrative to interior pattern to court cards to aces. To the tuck case, to the bat, and now in the printing, I think it is my best overall deck, and I say that after going through some of my favorite pieces, and I think that there might be a tuck case that I think is I think it's hard to say if anything's better than my Tavern on the Green tuck. Like it's a really I really feel like that's one where I couldn't. Again, you're always trying to predict how well something's going to turn out, but that one turned out better than I predicted. Like it's really amazing the production on the all green deck. I love the Lord of the Rings tuck, but as a deck in totality, I think Goldsmith has it all. I think it's a really, really great deck. I'm very proud of it, and the fact that it's my own, my own brand. The Cantrell deck is really cool, and I'm very happy that I was able to achieve, I think, the most fulfilling deck of my portfolio with that one. Well, there you have it. And if you haven't had a chance to get yours, scroll down. Click on the link. There's still some available, obviously, and they'll be shipping immediately. So that's really exciting. All right, Kevin, taking the time to come on here and have a chat with us and talk about all the cool stuff that you've got going on. You're welcome. It's always good to chat. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to everybody who's supporting us. And again, I hope you guys will continue to support us. Sorry it took so long, but we followed through. And I think the product is better than we could have imagined. I think you'll be very happy when you receive it. The printing's immaculate. It's incredible, the production. And if you like this, please, stay tuned for some exciting things in the future. So yep. All right. So this hashtag down here, the Goldsmith deck. Here's what we want you to do to get a chance to win the Goldsmith prototype. Go on either Facebook or Instagram or Twitter and post a picture of your favorite Kevin Cantrell deck or TGW deck
You can also post pictures of the Goldsmith deck. Just make sure you tag it the Goldsmith deck as you see here below, and then we will choose from there a random winner to take home the prize of the Goldsmith prototype deck, which also includes, by the way, Via Balluno cards in it. So that's a very, very, very cool prize if there's ever been one. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. We really appreciate it, and we will catch you on the next one. I think we'll be back. I'll be back rather 2 weeks from today. We're going to be talking to Jamie Morrison, aka Bacon Wise. He's also the creator of the Curio playing cards brand, and we're going to talk about his journey from collector to producer to now retired producer, and kind of the hardships and the successes of that trajectory, that journey. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll catch you on the flip side. Have a good one.